This is the Blaze Radio on demand.
The experts at Web.com want to build your business a successful website for free. Plus, we'll promote it on all the major search engines. If after 30 days you're happy, we'll continue to provide promotion, hosting, support, and maintenance, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing. Call right now and you'll also get a free .com or .net domain name for your new website, powered by VeriSign, the world's leading domain name provider.
Call 800-215-0465. That's 800-215-0465.
The Buck Sexton Show.
We're joined by Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. He's the president of the American Islamic Forum of Democracy. Dr. Jasser, good to have you back. Thanks for calling in.
Oh, anytime, Buck. Thanks for having me back.
So we've got some follow-up on the foreign policy fiasco that is the Obama administration now finally having to face up to the fact that they sold the Iran deal under false pretenses. What can you tell us about this, Dr. Jasser?
Yeah, we smelled something that really stunk, and sure enough, you start peeling it away, and it's rotting at the core. And we now know from reports with Fox News and James Rosen pushing, basically there's a video that seems to mysteriously be have a portion on it where spokesperson for the State Department, Psaki, was basically saying that she did not begin talks with Iran before 2013. And yet the New York Times interview with Rhodes that now many in the House and Senate are beginning to take a look at as really exposing that, in fact, the Obama administration lied. He mentioned that they started in 2011. And the reason, Buck, this is so important, I'll remind folks that the administration was to a large swath of America that rejected the radicalism of Ahmadinejad, who was at the time the president, said that, well, we won't negotiate with him, but it looks like moderate clerics are getting elected in 2013, and it shows hope for a compromise, if you will, and leadership in Iran that maybe they can. And remember, Obama campaigned in 2008 that he wanted to unclench the fist of Iran. So clearly, they did not have all of a sudden an epiphany in 2013 that somehow Iran had moderated. They were working with the most vicious and most anti-American oppressors in Iran that we knew, which was Ahmadinejad, and this Rhodes interview basically exposes that. And when they went back to the State Department video to show the conflict, it has mysteriously disappeared in that clip.
Right. So the Obama administration's line on this via Ben Rhodes, who has just been profiled in this what was it, New York Times Magazine piece, as again somebody who went into foreign policy, as a creative writer, really had no background in the history or the politics of the region at all, but all of a sudden is Obama's voice on foreign policy matters. Part of this is that they were saying that there was an opening created by the Rouhani election, right? That all of a sudden there was this moderate opportunity that had arisen, and they did this so that it would put additional pressure on people to not seem like they were being intransigent, to seem like members of Congress and others in this country who have a very dim view of Iran and don't buy that Iran had changed in any meaningful way, would say, well, are you guys going to miss this great opportunity? Well, if they were already talking to the regime before Rouhani, then it clearly wasn't an opportunity they were seizing. They were actually making this happen no matter what, which also let the mullahs know that they wanted a deal no matter what. It not only affects the perception of the start of this whole thing, Dr. Jasser, it also should affect the way people view how desperate the Obama administration was to get something done for its own purposes. It's very bad negotiating.
And listen, I am, as I read this, as a Syrian American, this reminds me of Syrian media, of Russian media, Pravda, because I will remind you, in 2009, there was a green revolution which Obama turned away from and ignored, and it turns out why? He was already negotiating with the thugs, with the thugocracy of the Khomeinists, with the Ahmadinejad oppressors. So sure, he's not going to help the Green Revolution. And I think the truth is coming out, and we're seeing with Psaki and with Rhodes, this was amateur hour and was probably driven by Valerie Jarrett, who has a long history of cozying up to Iran. And now we know why the pro-Iranian lobby has been so involved in massaging the message coming out after 2013 negotiations. But even beforehand, this has been a hand-in-glove operation with not only Iran abroad, but the Iranian lobby here. And by the way, I'll remind you also, we had the Alevi Foundation shut down in New York So you had the Department of Treasury and others continuing to do anti-terror work, stopping and enforcing the sanctions, all the while the administration is actually treating them as an ally, which is just horrific.
Yeah, it seemed that in that article it made the point pretty clear about Ben Rhodes and he's the mind meld that he supposedly has with Obama on foreign policy matters, that the old days of the sort of or the Sunni rather dominated Middle East are over. And they seem to have a sort of almost a braggadocio about this, like, oh, well, we figured it all out. We fixed it. A more powerful Iran is going to make everything better. So they've emboldened one of the worst and most dangerous regimes and think that somehow that will bring about a more stable Middle East. It's almost unthinkable in the extent of the stupidity, I have to say. But this is the administration's position on it. And
I don't know where they're getting the rationale. I mean, our so-called allies, the Saudis and the Egyptians and others, have been fueling 98% of the terrorism against the West has been Sunni. So now we're supposed to operate. It appears that our foreign policy has been operating that the opening of the Iranian economy is somehow going to bring, remember the videos that President Obama sold and was pushed, and Nowruz, the annual holiday in Iran, was shown on Iranian television where he told them, the lifting of the sanctions will bring economic prosperity to your country. And he was trying to sell the Green Revolution folks that this deal is good for them, when in fact all that money is going to be used for is basically continuing to shore up the military hegemony of the Iranian Khomeinis, and the people of the Green Revolution, who are really our allies, will never see that. And now we're finding out that our president, by the way, when Rosen asked them, well, have you been lying to us? Their response is, well, sometimes for the privacy of diplomacy, we have to maintain confidentiality. Listen, there's one thing that protects our democracy is that our leadership is accountable to the American people for the truth. Now we're being told that they use the same type of taqiyya, which is the virtues of lying that the Islamists use, to basically lie to the American public.
I always find it interesting, by the way, when they also go back and look at some of the transcripts, things like anytime, anywhere inspections, some of the things that were said to try to get the Iran. And by the way, in the article, it goes into some detail about the tools of propaganda that the Obama administration utilized in order to get the message out there. They created a Twitter account, the Iran deal. I mean, they were going all out. Like it was a marketing campaign using surrogates in the media, using social media accounts created specifically for this purpose that did not necessarily scream to people that they were attached directly to the White House that was trying to convince them this was a good idea. We were being swindled. We were being sold a bill of goods.
And this wasn't one incident, Buck. This is a trajectory of a campaign that ran. Obama, as a senator running for president, ran on unclenching their fist as somehow, and then he felt he had a mandate to do so. So their campaign, once he became the president and was in the White House, became any means necessary to sell this, because it doesn't matter. We're going to get this done. The Iranian regime will open up, and we will become their quote-unquote ally, regardless of what is in the good interest of America. And in the meanwhile, that opening has thus facilitated America withdrawing from the rest of the Middle East and allowing Iran to hegemonize Iraq, as we've seen in the same period of time, losing control of Iraq, which also set up the expansion of ISIS. I mean, all these pieces, I hope, are coming together for people.
When will it be obvious, Dr. Jasser, when will it be clear to everyone that the Iran deal is a failure? I know the Obama administration will be long gone, but at what point will it be impossible to argue that this was a good idea, for any sane, reasonable person to argue that this was a good idea?
Well, there's a couple inflection points that we may see over the next few years. One is if we start to see not only their ballistic missiles increase in transport from Russia and other places, but actually to see violations that we will know in a new administration that will expose what Iran is violating and what they're not. Second is if we start to hear Saudi Arabia and other Sunni powers demand that they obtain nuclear weapons, as we see in the India-Pakistan arrangement, then we'll know the reality, because at the end of the day, when they start screaming for nuclear weapons, we'll know that Iran must not be that far away.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, the president of the American Islamic Forum on Democracy. Dr. Jasser, we always appreciate your time. Thank you for calling in today.
Thanks for having me, Buck. Appreciate it.
The experts at web.com want to build your business a successful website for free. Plus, we'll promote it on all the major search engines. If after 30 days you're happy, we'll continue to provide promotion, hosting, support, and maintenance, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing. Call right now and you'll also get a free .com or .net domain name for your new website, powered by VeriSign, the world's leading domain name provider.
Call 800-215-0460